Hello, everybody. My name is David Myers. I am a teacher at Boulder Creek High School, and I don't know if I'm going to get in trouble for this, but I've always been taught that when you see something wrong, you want to stand up and point it out. So, I'd like to talk a little bit about this HB 2853. What does it do to Arizona? If you don't know what I'm talking about, this is the thing that we passed a few years ago, or a year and a half ago, or whatever you call it. They called it the Freedom of Educational Choice. They've called it the Universal School Voucher Program. Whatever you want to call it, that's what we're talking about today. So I'm going to give you the facts. I'm going to try not to use any hyperbole or exaggeration whatsoever. These are the facts that I could research and find on my own, and I round these numbers. Okay, I'll just say that outright. If you're gonna, you might see some stuff and be like, "Oh, that's not perfectly 100% accurate." I'm going for round numbers to explain what I think I see and the problems that I think are going to happen. 2853 is supposed to give all the parents the ability to take state money, $7,000, and use it towards private schools or other educational costs if they don't want to be in public education. ESAs are funded by state tax dollars, consisting of about 90% of the funding that would have otherwise been allocated to the school district or charter school that the qualified student was attending. All right. That is $7,000. We're using that. I've seen a few places say 6,500 and 7,200, but 7,000 seems to be the consensus. There are 1.1 million students, K through 12 students in Arizona. There are only 66,000 private school students and just under 40,000 homeschooled students in Arizona. If every one of these students uses the money that they're eligible for this time next year in September of 2024, that will cost the state, or I should say this, that will cost public education $742 million. Not an exaggeration, that's almost exact, and that's a very conservative number to everything else I've seen out there. So I'm going to use that number. The overall budget coming out of the state taxes is about $3 billion. Again, that's not exact. It's a rounded number, but very close. And that ranks us 49th in the nation I'm sorry, that number's wrong. Idaho is now worse than us. We are number 48 in the nation. The voucher program will take about 25% of that budget, period. So said differently, about 9.6% of the students that are already in private schools or homeschool, they're already there. They can already afford it. They're doing it. Now they're going to take about 25% of the funding and out of the Arizona state tax revenue for public education. Additionally, this is a weird side note, but it's worth noting that they're going to take another $2.2 million out of public education so that they can, for administration of this program. What that entails, I have guesses, but you do too. This is not coming out of our public education fund, but there's another $10 million that Senator Janie Shamp, I don't know if I'm butchering that or not, she's setting that aside just to advertise the program coming up next year. And that will be coming out of taxpayer funds as well, just not the public education. All right. So I've heard the argument for this. I heard Governor Ducey even say it last year. People are tired of the failing public education in Arizona. And instead of arguing that they're wrong, I'm going to tell you that you're right. Public education isn't great in Arizona. It's failing, if you will, if that's the word you want to use for it. But I beg you to ask yourself why. If we're ranked 47th in the nation in public education, but yet we're ranked 48th in spending, it doesn't take brain science to figure out why. In fact, we're 50th in the nation in pupil to educator ratios. So is there a link between spending on education and ranking higher in education? You darn skippy, there is. Here's some of the states that have the highest rankings in education and the 10 states that spend the most on education. The only big outlier here is Alaska. They don't rank very high educationally despite spending a lot of money. I don't know the answer to that. I haven't researched Alaska and what their issues are in education. The other outlier is Colorado. Colorado is, not in the top 10, but yet they're in the top 10 in education, which is awesome. The rest, it's almost one for one. New York, District of Columbia, Massachusetts, Maryland, New Jersey, Connecticut, you get it. They spend more on education, their kids are more educated or better educated. The converse here's where we find ourselves. We rank, this particular study had us ranked number 50 and nationally, and here we are, third from the bottom in spending. It's not a coincidence. In fact, the vast majority of the states that spend the least end up in the bottom. You got Tennessee, Florida, North Carolina, Oklahoma. They're all near the bottom. Okay. You can see the one for one almost there. All right, let's sum up what we've covered. Arizona is ranked dead last in education in some studies. Sometimes they're, second to last or third to last, but you get the point. We ranked 48th in spending in education. When this school voucher comes into effect on September 24th, now we're taking another 25%, ballpark again, 25% out of that funding, and now we're giving it to students that can already afford and are already in public schools, or kids that were already going to be in public schools. So on a state-by-state basis, if we're next to last or closest to last in spending, we rank poorly. Why would we make it worse? We already can see that the states that spend more have their students better educated. All right, so let's talk about who benefits really quickly from the voucher program. Excuse me. It's not the 994,000 kids that are in public schools. 994. The reason I put that number here because, you could have done the math in your head and known that, 106,000 private school kids and homeschool kids, the rest of them is 994. They're not going to automatically go and become private school kids or stay at home and homeschool. It's not going to happen. Who pushed through 2853? Barry Goldwater Institute. Feel free to Google search them. Their goal is to privatize education. They are intentionally trying to handicap our public education in Arizona. And we are basically a test dummy for them. They're trying to show off to the rest of the nation. This is how we get out of the business, or the government gets out of the business of education. Now, I just want to do a really quick side note. Just because we spend money on education does not mean it has to be leftist morals. Okay, I'll put that in air quotes. There we go. You still have a say in what your kids are taught. Go to a board meeting. This is Arizona. You can institute what we want educationally here. Doesn't mean because we actually spend money on it and we care about it that all of a sudden it has to go super left morally. All right. This is going to do is create a world of haves and have-nots. The vast majority of you people that see this video are probably having their kids in public education. Your kid is going to suffer as a result of this. There is zero doubt in my mind. I'm going to be lesser of a teacher to your children. Your kids will now have more kids in their classrooms one way or the other. I threw in this little tidbit here. Brophy right now has a teacher to student ratio of 14-1. At Boulder Creek, we're about 25-1. Now let's play with some numbers here. Now it's going to take some conjecture because I don't know. Oh, okay. Real quick, I'm going to go to Brophy. And I don't want to demonize Brophy. I think Brophy's great. And if you can afford to take your kids, they're fantastic. High five. That's a great school educationally. But if you think that it's going to help poorer people get into schools like Brophy, well, realistically, we all know that there's a very good chance all these private schools raise their tuition that pretty much gets rid of the $7,000. Just between this year and last, Brophy raised their tuition by $1,000. If you don't think that they're going to raise it eventually by a full $7,000, another $6,000, I got some oceanfront property here in Arizona to sell you. And again, I'm not demonizing Brophy. Brophy is a great school, and kids come out of there with a great education, and the parents that go there, God bless them. I'm glad that they can afford to get their kids there. But let's just crunch some crazy numbers here. What happens if we take out that $742 million out of the $3 billion budget? Let's round it to 25%, just for argument's sake. Do we cut spending, or do we raise taxes? Well, in Arizona, to raise 25% taxes that cover a 25% shortfall in public education is going to be rough, really hard to pull off. I don't see it coming. More likely, it will become a staff issue. We will cut staff. And just for round numbers, I'm going to assume here that they're all teachers. And I am a teacher. I personally have 151 students on a day in and day out basis. That's about 30 kids per class, so through 5 classes. Now let's just bump that number up 25%. Let's assume I have 181 students and 36 students per classroom. Theoretically, I now have 25% less time to spend with each additional student. Kid falls behind. Do I have time to sit and go over every assignment with them? I don't know if you realize, but 30 students is a huge jump. All while we look at Brophy, and they have a 14-to-1 student to teacher ratio. So I hope you can see that this just creates a have versus have not situation. Are they going to cut maintenance crews? What are they going to cut? Who knows? But do we want our schools to start looking like trash because we have passed this bill? I don't know. It's something to think about. I tried my very best here to not speak in hyperbole or exaggeration. I wanted to give you the nuts and bolts of what I see coming down. We got a huge budget deficit coming, and we have no way to pay for it. The only way I can see it playing out, if we don't overturn this, is that our schools and our students and our children start to suffer. Am I worried about me personally? No, I'm not. If I have to go get a different job, that's fine. I can make more money doing a lot of different jobs out there besides education. I just happen to enjoy it, and I don't want to have to put my kids into private schools for them to have a good education or the education they deserve. And I don't think that's a crazy left-wing thing to say. I think it's just the obvious. So please don't hate on me. If you disagree with any of my numbers or anything that I see here, I would love to have a very polite discussion with you, or tweet with you, or text with you, or Facebook with you. I don't hate you for disagreeing. I think that that's what we do here. It's okay to disagree. If you have any questions, feel free to comment below and shoot me a line. Let's just be civil about it, and it is okay to disagree. I hope you're having a great day, and take care.